Welcome, everybody, back to another fantastic episode here of the Three Man Rush podcast. If you are joining us, we want to thank you so much for all the support. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead, click the like and notification bell down there. And that way you can be notified anytime we drop videos. We usually do about 2 a week, but during the season, we drop 3 a week, and some of it could even win you some money. So you definitely want to be subscribed. And if you're listening to the podcast format, also, we want to thank you as well. Go ahead and subscribe on whether it's Apple, whether it's Spotify, any of that. Just go ahead and subscribe, and that helps us get notifications. It helps you get notifications. It helps boost the show, boost the channel, all that good stuff. And it helps support your boys, and that's what it's all about. Because we want the support, but we want to make you money. We want to make you win your fantasy league. We want to make you a better football fan as well, keeping you informed, keeping you up to date, keeping you knowledgeable of the game. So if you haven't listened to us before, my name is Landon Oliver, your host, here with my two co-hosts, Andrew Scott and Jared Holly, down here. So, boys, how's it going?
Good. McAfee. Internet protection.
You got blocked.
Yeah, that was crazy. Everything's good, man. Ready for the show?
Yeah, real good. Ready to talk some more football. Just means we're one show closer to real football.
Yep, every show we go, it's closer. Training camp starts this week, officially. There's already been some practices, already been some guys, unfortunately, like I saw earlier where the Kansas City wide receiver, Justin Ross, he had surgery. They shut him down for the year, so he's missing his whole rookie year after dealing with injuries at Clemson. But then also you got guys like James Robinson now, who's apparently not going to be put on a physically unable to perform list. They're expecting him to, fully go in training camp, which is crazy. It's like the Achilles injury is like the new ACL injury, where guys are like
just another day.
6-7 months, you're good. Everything's back to normal. So
been positive Chris Godwin news lately.
Yeah, Chris Godwin. Yeah. So, news is starting to roll around, and we haven't even fully got into training camp. So, we're really close. But if you are joining us today, we do have our divisional preview shows we're doing right now. And last week we did the AFC West, the NFC West. This week we are starting with the AFC East. So today's AFC East show, we'll be going over how things ended up last year for the AFC East, giving you a little breakdown, some additions, some losses for personnel for each team, and how we think they're going to perform this upcoming season. And then at the end, we will each have our picks of who's winning the AFC East and how we think the division is going to play out in itself. I'm pretty excited about this division personally, because I feel like there's actually 3 really, really intriguing teams I think you have one dominant teone. You have 2 really intriguing teams that could go either way. And then you have, the words, the Jets. I was going to say, if you've ever seen, what is it? The
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
The goddamn Jets.
So we're excited about that. And let's just go ahead and get started here. So whenever we look back at 2021, it's a season pretty much of how it's been the last few years, where the Buffalo Bills are kind of like the cream of the crop of the division. Once Tom Brady left, the Buffalo Bills they've kind of ran things in that division. And then you have the Patriots, who are still competitive every single week, somehow making the playoffs last year, with a rookie quarterback. I think one of the best coaching jobs that Bills put together personally, just from everything that was going on there. And then you have Miami and the Jets, who have kind of been perennial, either 500 teams or bottom dwellers for at least the last half decade or so. So that being said, 2021 wasn't really any different. So the Bills finished first. Obviously, they went to the playoffs. Saw the season Josh Allen had. And there's a reason why they are one of the most popular preseason picks to win the Super Bowl, for Josh Allen to win MVP. And, they're getting all this love because they have one of the best, if not the best roster in all of football. Then you have New England going into year 2 with my boy Mac Jones. You know my love for Mac Jones. If you listen to the show, I think he's fantastic. He's not going to have the huge fantasy, the seasons, but I mean, the guy's just a really good quarterback. He's a really good football player. So I always enjoy watching that. Then Miami Dolphins made a little bit of noise. There's some stuff to talk about on
Pretty
them as well.
busy off season on there.
Pretty busy all season for them, as well as a new coach. And the Jets, not really too much on the Jets, but I will say this. They had a really good draft, so we will go over a little bit of their draft. So that way, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. So bringing up the rear here, based on the standings last year, were the New York Jets. And like we said, they were 4-13, had, top 5 pick again. They actually had multiple picks within the top 10 this year. And they can thank Seattle for that one, I believe, the Jamal Adams trade.
Yep.
So that was a pretty good deal for them. I think they
traded back into the first round, to the back of the first round as well. So ended up having 3 first-round picks this year.
Yes. So some of their additions, they added Laken Tomlinson along their offensive line, DJ Reed, Jordan Whitehead, and LaMarcus Joyner in the defensive backfield, CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin. And then their, loaded draft class, which, a lot of pundits and, including us are saying is one of the best draft classes out of the entire NFL draft, which, look, when you have that many first-round picks, when you have that many picks overall, there's a good chance that you should have a pretty good draft class by the end of the draft. But, those guys still have to pan out. But there's no reason to think, that they won't, other than the fact that it is the Jets. The talent seems to be wasted there for whatever reason. But are there any additions, outside of the draft class or anything like that you really liked this year from them?
I mean, if we're just talking additions, I think the big one for me was probably DJ Reed, the corner that they added. Obviously, not my favorite corner that they added technically, because we're not talking about the draft right now. And I'll talk about him in a minute. But just free agency wise, I think with how bad that pass defense was last year, they needed to do something. And DJ Reed was considered like a top 50 NFL free agent by most people last year. Somewhere around that area. So it's not like that they added J.C. Jackson, but I thought that was important to get a body in the room that can just play defense. So I like that addition by them.
Big Jared, you got one in mind?
It's nothing huge, but they definitely upgraded at tight end with Conklin and CJ Uzama. Last year, I think at one point Ryan Griffin was their starting tight end. That's a name that does not get mentioned very often in NFL circles.
No bueno.
So, offensively, I think that's an upgrade. Second year on Zach Wilson, we're going to see a little bit more, I think. And Jets are interesting. I think they're gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if they're ever going to be fun to watch, but they'll be watchable at least. So we'll see. And then some of the losses, they did lose Jamison Crowder to the Buffalo Bills, as well as offensive tackle Morgan Moses, Marcus May, who is one of the most underrated safeties in football. He ended up leaving, and they also lost Shaq Lawson there along the defensive line. So when we look at the Jets, we think they're, clearly still rebuilding. They're in now year 2 of the new regime year, rebuild where, last year they took, the quarterback, they have the head coach, basically starting anew. So now this is going into year 2 of this for the Jets. How do you think that they've done surrounding Zach Wilson with talent? And, do you expect a leap forward for him this year? Obviously, we know the story of the offseason. He's out there, he's slinging that thing, and we ain't talking about football. So, I mean, clearly Zach Wilson's putting in the work this offseason to get ready. So, do you think it pays?
You think he gained more experience over the offseason?
he was taught a few lessons, I'm sure. Anytime you're able to learn under somebody a little more seasoned than yourself, you're able to kind of learn a few things there. It's always going to be beneficial for you. So do you think he learned enough this offseason, and how do you expect it to play out during the regular season?
I'll let Drew start.
So, I mean, to answer the question, will Zach Wilson take the leap? I can't confidently say yes because I'm not a huge Zach Wilson believer. I'll just say he better because they definitely have done their job in terms of surrounding him with talent. I mean, grabbing Breece Hall in the second round, I think he was clearly the best running back in this class. And a much more well-rounded threat than Michael Carter. So they have somebody that they can turn around and hand the ball off to over and over in a game now, I believe. And he can still, for all the noise of Michael Carter is the pass catching back for this team, I think Breece Hall is a better pass catcher too. So I not to say Michael Carter won't be involved, but that's just how good I think Breece Hall is. And then Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore are two really talented young receivers that should really give him some good options. And then Corey Davis is still there too. You can say what you want about him, but if he's the third best receiver on your team, that's not all that bad. And they've
He's
slowly
still
been
relatively
trying
young
to.
as well.
Yeah, and they're still and Jared mentioned the tight ends as well, and then they're still adding to the offensive line. They brought in Laken Tomlinson during free agency. They, year two of Elijah Vera Tucker in that offensive line as well. We'll see what happens. I know the whole thing with Mekhi Becton and his weight fluctuation and his consistency, if he can stay at left tackle, or, George Fant is a guy that supposedly he's a little bit more safe of an option. Maybe doesn't have the upside of Becton, but he could slide it. They could basically just flip tackle spots. I don't know how that's going to play out, but overall, I think the offensive line should be better than it was last year, even though I still don't expect it to be great. So the offensive line could probably still use a little bit of work. But as far as the pass catchers go, I mean, Zach Wilson's sitting pretty good right now, in my opinion.
Yeah. He's in a much better situation than like even someone like Mac Jones as far as talent around him on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, I agree.
Like as far as taking the leap, I mean, it's hard to say. The jury's out. He definitely did not show a whole lot last year. There was glimpses on occasion. He had one of the worst rushing touchdowns I've ever seen in pro football. It seemed like the slowest touchdown. But I mean, I think he will. I think he'll take a leap. I think the Jets. I think their win total from last year, they're going to go over that. I could see them winning 6 games this year, and Zach Wilson being a big part of that. Breece Hall, man, in the second round, like he is the best running back that came out of that draft, and I think it's going to switch it up too, to where they're going to trail in a lot of games, but they could dump off to him, and then also just all the elite. I mean, those guys all have a lot of upside on the wide receiver position, and Corey Davis. I mean, he was a 5th overall pick not too long ago, and like Landon said, he's still young. I think we forget that sometimes. Yeah, by the Tennessee Titans, but yeah, man, I like what they did, and I think he can definitely take a step forward.
Yeah, he's definitely looking a lot better than a guy like Justin Fields right now. I'm sure Justin Fields would love to trade places with Zach Wilson. So,
yeah.
Well, maybe not, because then you'd have to live in New York. So
Chicago ain't much better.
Yeah,
not with taxes right now the way they are.
Yes, that's true. But that being said, I think we all kind of expect the same thing here. We expect a little bit of improvement, but still nothing noticeable until they know for sure that Zach Wilson's the guy. Now, if Zach Wilson comes out next year, has a massive year 2, Patrick Mahomes year 2, Justin Herbert year 2, kind of an improvement, then yeah, I think that clearly changes the trajectory of where this Jet season ends up going and where their future ends up going. But I think it kind of until we see something like that from Zach Wilson, it's right to be a little bit skeptical because as great as their draft is, as good as their free agent additions were, I think we all like their coaching staff. We don't think it's a detriment. I mean, we don't know if it's a plus, but I don't think we think it's a detriment. none of that matters if you don't have the right guy under center. So
Yep.
it'll be curious to see how the Jets move forward. Now let's get on to.
Wait.
Oh,
Don't
you
move
got
on
something.
yet.
You got
Don't move
something.
on yet, because I got to just talk about, like, I'm so excited to watch Sauce Gardner out there on an NFL field. Like, the
Oh,
last 2
yeah.
years we've been doing the NFL draft coverage, he's been my favorite defensive prospect the last 2 years that I've been able to look at. So I'm excited, like him and bringing DJ Reed in from free agency. And then adding Sauce Gardner, I think they'll be a kind of like an underrated cornerback duo. The safety as a whole is still going to be is going to be an issue. They have some work to do, but I mean, having those two guys at corner, I think is solid. And then having Quentin Williams in the middle, Shelton Rankins, Carl Lawson, John Frankenmeyers, and then the third first round draft pick we talked about, Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, having those guys rushing the passer. I don't. I'm not saying that I expect the defense to be good, but I mean they were really, really bad last year. So, I think this is the opportunity for Saleh to flex a little bit, and show why he was such a renowned defensive head coach. So, I would consider it a disappointment if the defense didn't at least take somewhat of a step forward. Like I don't like a lot. Like they're going from Marcus May to Jordan Whitehead, like their safety position, which was one of the good spots on the defense with Marcus May there. It took a hit. Even though Whitehead's not a terrible player, like that's still a downgrade from Marcus May to me. And then the linebacker room, it is what it is, I guess. But if the defense, similar to the offense, doesn't take a step forward, I think that would be somewhat of a disappointment.
All right, let's move on. So now we have the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like we've already spent way too much time talking. We spent more
15
time
minutes on the Jets.
Yeah, we spent more time allotted to the other three teams. We spent more time on the Jets. So
We had to make up for last week's Seattle Seahawks.
I'll make it up by not talking too much whenever we come to the Patriots. How about that?
I don't have a lot to say on them, to be honest with you.
I'll let you have the whole 10
Let
minutes
Mac
to talk about
Jones
Mac
up there
Jones.
take care of
that's
that.
fine. That's fine. All right, so now let's move on to the team that finished third last year, who did another big off season as well, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Now with Mike McDaniel as the head coach, who was the run game coordinator for the 49ers last year, kind of similar to Sean McVay. Anybody who shake Sean McVay's hand, they get a head coaching job. Well, now Kyle Shanahan is is joining that. So your run game coordinator is now getting a head coaching job. But I do like Mike McDaniel. I think he's a smart guy. Be curious to see how that ends up. But big addition, obviously, Tyreek Hill there from the Chiefs, trading all those picks there and getting him, which I mean, really it wasn't a ton of picks. I thought, what they gave up was relatively meek, for Tyreek Hill. But then they went out, got every running back in free agency. Chase Edmonds, Sony Michel, Raheem Mostert, and you could tell the run game coordinator had a say in some stuff. And then ended up signing Cedric Wilson as well from the Cowboys. Teron Armstead is the new left tackle, and Connor Williams as well there coming over, I believe, from the Cowboys, and then signing Melvin Ingram. So they remade basically your entire offense, trying to get Tua some help. They got Tyreek Hill, got all these running backs, redid their offensive line, added Cedric Wilson to the receiver room as well. And I think he's a really underrated receiver. I think he's a really decent third option there for them. So they did lose Will Fuller, Justin Coleman, Jason McCourty, who did retire, and Jesse Davis, but not really a ton of losses there. They had a ton of cap space. They kept who they wanted to keep. They added who they wanted to add. So with the big offseason like this, how do you view the Tyreek Hill trade, especially, with Jalen Waddell? They do kind of play similar roles in that offense. How do you go about combining these two guys together? To me, it does seem easy, but I am curious, Jared, when you're looking at, you have two burners who can stretch the field, can take a 4-yard pass 80 yards. You have two of these guys. how do you balance, who gets the ball, who's put in this situation, who's put in this situation, and how do you use a guy like Tua, who I think we all agree doesn't necessarily have the strongest arm, to get the most out of these guys?
Yeah, Tua's average depth of target was like 7.4 yards last season. It was one of the lowest in the NFL. But Tyreek Hill, I think a lot of people have the impression that he is a go up the field, catch a long pass, and which he can do. He had one of the lower ADOTs of the elite wide receivers last season. And like Landon said, both Waddle and Tyreek Hill can take a 4-yard pass to the house. So them getting him, personally, I feel like Kansas City won the trade, in my own opinion, getting the picks and building for the future. But I think Tyreek Hill makes any team better at the same time too. And that offense they've set up for Tua. This is his season to show them that he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He can play for the Miami Dolphins. Adding Chase Edmonds and still having Gesicki, it's all those guys are within his realm of where he likes to pass the ball. So they have literally tailored that offense to their quarterback.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And Drew, I do want to touch on something with you as well. So these running backs, there's a plethora of them as well, and I believe they also kept their starting running back from last year as well.
Yeah, Miles Gaskins.
Miles Gaskins there. And then, like we said, just to read off, so they kept Miles Gaskin, but then they added Chase Edmonds, Sony Michel, and Raheem Mostert coming over from the 49ers. How do you see this backfield playing out? Is there a guy there that you think is going to take over, or do you think it's just this 3-headed to 4-headed, mess all season where, one guy's getting a carry, then he's off the field, the other guy's getting a carry, they're just going to keep churning them out?
I think it's kind of inevitable that eventually this is going to be Sony Michel's backfield.
Yeah,
I just feel like he's going to lurk and wait, and eventually, one way or another, he's going to end up being the lead back. I think he's the best pure runner on the team, although I do think Chase Edmonds is a really good fit for what they want to do. We're assuming that McDaniel's going to come over and do stuff similar to Shanahan. If that's the case, I think Chase Edmonds would be a good fit there. And, look, the minute free agency started, one of the first notifications we got on our phone was Chase Edmonds to the Dolphins. It was very clear that was a guy that McDaniel and the team targeted. So I think Chase Edmonds will get the first crack at it, and I do think that he will be good for the offense. But I don't know, man. I just feel like one way or another, eventually, this is going to be Sony Michel's backfield, and that could end up not playing out that way. But and I don't think Sony will be the 3-down back or anything like that. I would still expect somebody like Chase Edmonds or somebody. It's not nobody. You're not going to get a 3-down back from this backfield. Basically, is I don't think is how it's going to play out. But it's going to be Chase Edmonds and somebody, or Sony Michel and somebody. Somebody will be the lead guy, but there's not going to be a 3-down back.
I was going to piggyback off of what Drew said for a second. I know a lot of people are high on Chase Edmonds this year, and I think there's good reasons to be. He's not a 3-down back. Even at times when Connor was out last year, they didn't use him as a 3-down back.
I believe he was one of my sleepers.
Yeah.
Well.
Which for fantasy makes sense where he's going in drafts. You're basically drafting him as the last quote unquote starting running back available in fantasy drafts. So he is a value at that point.
Miami's going to be hard to touch for fantasy, man. They're going to be one of those teams where obviously they can win you some weeks, but there's just too many mouths to feed. And the backfield is not a place I would want to touch for anything fantasy related to Miami.
Yeah, so getting away from the backfield and transitioning to the quarterback here, almost kind of similar situation with Zach Wilson, like we kind of touched on, where we have Tua, who I believe now is going into his 3rd season, and everybody's still kind of waiting to see what he is. Where you have guys like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. They've clearly made their mark on the league in the last couple of years, even their rookie years. Tua really hasn't, and I'm curious to see or hear what you guys think of Tua as a quarterback. And they went out and got all these weapons. They got the new coach. They got the new offensive line. They got the running game to help support him. is this kind of like a put up or shut up season for Tua, or like, do you think that leash is long? Because I mean, that's some pretty big draft capital to invest in a quarterback in only his third season. So how do you think the organization views Tua, and how do you personally view Tua? And I'll drop it down to Jared, then Drew, you can answer.
Yeah, I honestly feel like there's no leash at this point. That he is their only option at quarterback for this season, anyways. And you got to remember his rookie year, there was still Ryan Fitzpatrick was there. There was a little bit of controversy on who the quarterback should have been during that time period. Last season, I think he missed some games and Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback. Yes. There was people that were saying that there was absolutely no difference between Jacoby Brissett and Tua. Some people even kind of preferred Jacoby, which I personally don't. But there were people that had arguments about it. They're basically the same quarterback. Kind of the same situation with Zach Wilson. This is the first year where you can actually say, okay, look, they got him these weapons. This is his team. There's no competition at quarterback. So we're going to see a lot this season. I think it is make or break. But I also feel like there is no leash in the organization. Win, lose, or draw, they're going to go down with this guy for a year.
Well, I mean, the first thing is, unfortunately, if people thought Jacoby Brissett was a better option, there's going to be riots for people wanting Teddy Bridgewater to start. Because, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater's better.
Oh, I forgot. I totally forgot Teddy. Yeah, never mind.
But the thing is, neither one of those guys are better than Tua. Like, they're not. My only point is, if people were clamoring for Brissett last year, they're really going to be wanting Bridgewater this year. But I think Tua has been dealt a pretty tough hand up to this point in his career in terms of lack of weapons, lack of an offensive line, lack of continuity, lack of offensive mind. I think he was dealt a pretty tough hand, and so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt for this year to at least see some improvement. I think his leash is season long. Like, I don't think he's in danger of being benched or anything like that. But like the big thing for me is the improvements they made on the offensive line. That offensive line has been really, really bad the last few years, and they did a great job, improving that and then improving the playmakers like Jared has already went into. So I think with that balance of having an offensive-minded head coach at the helm that's shown nothing but confidence, publicly for you. Like he's got the support system, both from Tyreek, his new receiver, and his head coach. He's got an offensive mind. He's got the support system. He has the weapons. I mean, this year, I think you need to see significant strides from him this year. He doesn't have to be Josh Allen.
Look. After all the shit Tyreek Hill has talked this offseason, if this dude has a lower completion percentage than Patrick Mahomes, I'm calling it.
I'm not even mad at it, man.
Sure, you know what else talks?
What?
Money talks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Tyreek. I think it was literally today. It was today or yesterday.
Christian Kirk money.
Tyreek came out and said that like he was heartbroken to leave Kansas City, and if Kansas City would have offered him even a little bit less than what Miami did, he would have re-signed with Kansas City. Like, so I mean, he's still showing his old place some love too. But I mean, the reality is he knows where he's at now. He knows where the contract is at now, and he's gonna hype his guy up.
Either.
Yeah, he's gonna hype his guy Tua up, man. That's just part of it.
Sunshine, no state taxes, Miami.
I'll say one more thing about the Dolphins in general. They got red hot last year. They had a stretch where, I mean, they damn near made the playoffs.
Yeah, they went. Weren't they like the first team to start off 0-7 and then win 7 straight or something like that?
Yeah.
Wasn't it something crazy like that?
It was something along those lines. I know they started off
they were the first team in league history to have a 7-game losing streak and a 7-game winning streak in the same season or something like that. So it's something crazy like that. Like to your point, Jared.
What I'm saying, I think the defense is actually legit too. Like they have some good players on defense, and I think they're wanting to. I think they're going to rock you to sleep. They're going to deke and dunk, and they're going to run the ball, and then they're going to have the guys, their corners, just try to shut down other teams. And that's what you're going to have to do in that division with Buffalo in that division. They're the team, I think, I don't think they match up to Buffalo, but they're the team that can give Buffalo the most fits in that division.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, me too.
So now let's get on to the team that did make the playoffs last year with a rookie quarterback, and that is the New England Patriots. Cut off one head, three more grow back. They're the Hydra of the NFL, and that I think that makes Bill Belichick Red Skull. So, yeah, New England. We were all waiting for the downfall. Once Tom Brady was gone, they didn't make the playoffs the very next year. Everybody kind of celebrated like, "Ha! Like you're nothing again." It'll be years before you see the playoffs. Then they end up with a top 15 pick. They pick Mac Jones out of Alabama, and boom, they're right back in the playoffs. Back to double digit wins. Like they didn't win a Super Bowl, but hey. I was so ready for this team to almost just fall apart, and it seems like the opposite's happened. And that's with questionable drafting, questionable free agent signings. For whatever reason, they just know how to win football games. It's kind of unexplainable. So I do want to get in real quick before we do hop into the Patriots. So they did add Devontae Parker, Mac Wilson, Malcolm Butler coming back there. Is he retiring? Is he not? Well, he's going to be there. Re-signed Trent Brown, which was probably the biggest move they made, but they did lose Shaq Mason, which is, I think, a pretty decent loss. Dante Hightower, Kyle Van Noy, and J.C. Jackson. So some really big pieces on that defense. Moving on. But as we've seen over the years, for whatever reason, they let these guys go, high-profile, really great players. They let them go. They sign big contracts somewhere else. And then it's just next man up, business as usual. They still end up with a top 5 defense, and it's status quo. So what is stopping? And I'm going to let Drew do this one because I know he's excited for this one. What is stopping this season from being like all the others, where they lose all these high-profile guys who've been such impact players for them, and then they just have a new group of people you've never heard of come in, perform. They have a quarterback that is just, smart, accurate, gets the ball out, always have a good offensive line. Like, what's the stop this year from being the exact same?
I'm legitimately concerned about the defense this year, man. And I know, I joke a lot about Bill Belichick, but I do think he's the greatest defensive mind that the NFL has ever seen. So he will be able to make up for some of their shortcomings as a roster. But I don't know how much, I mean, these guys can obviously perform better than I think they will. But I mean, just looking at the guys they lost, I don't know how this defense doesn't take a step back, and the offense isn't exactly built to just sling it, and play catch-up ball and things like that. And if they're not able to pound the rock with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson on a regular basis like they tried to do last year and were successful in doing last year because the defense would, keep the other offenses down a little bit, I think they're going to have a little trouble. And I'm worried about the defense this year personally, and I'm worried that if the defense puts them in holes too consistently, that Mac Jones won't be able to play catch-up ball. So I think it could be a little different from that aspect. Again, not even factoring in the Belichick factor of him being as incredible of a defensive mind as he is. That one worries me a little bit this year.
All right, Jared, I actually have the opposite question for you. So where Drew, I know he's like kind of anti-New England, which most everybody that watches football, they're just sick of them. Like we're all anti-New England. But at the same time, what do you think the saving grace could be from the aspect of like, hey, they lost these high-profile guys, impact players. Here we go again. Is it the status quo where these guys we've never heard of just come in, produce really good winning football? Their quarterback takes a step forward going into his second year. What are some of the bright spots you think of why New England can still be New England?
Well, they play the Jets twice a year, so that helps.
That's a plus.
It's hard. That stadium's hard to play in, and Belichick is a genius at taking away the other team's best player. That's always been the status quo of Bill Belichick. They also another thing too, man. They lost Josh McDaniels, and I know some people that might not mean a lot, but he has been the offensive coordinator there for a long time. So Mac Jones now in his second season? Second season for Mac Jones. This will be his second offensive coordinator. So he already lost his offensive coordinator from his rookie season. He's gonna have a brand new one this year.
Well, actually, they're not, because for whatever weird reason, the Patriots do not have an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator this season.
So it's just Bill Belichick?
Basically, and his assistants.
They're basically just like not putting a name on it. Is how I understand it. Like you got Bill Belichick and the boys, and then the boys
exactly. Bill Belichick and his minions. He's like Gru, and then his coaches.
Whenever you're deciding, whenever you're trying to pick between who is it, Joe Judge and Jason Garrett or whoever for offensive coordinator, I can't remember seriously who all it is. But like whenever you have the choices that Belichick has for offensive coordinator, I'd probably just say fuck it, I'm gonna do it all myself too. So
it sounds like he's trying to catch up with Brady, so he can say if he wins a Super Bowl this year, he coached the entire team on every
right. Yeah, you're trying to close the GOAT gap a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, I don't know, man. This one's a tough one. Like, I don't know if they repeat 10-7. Like, I don't know if they make the playoffs this year. I feel like the division has gotten better. And I do feel like Liz knows pieces on the defense. I think the offense is about the same. It might be actually a little bit better this season.
I think the offense is better.
But man, some of those names you guys were talking about earlier, that's some big losses, and the division has gotten better. With Miami for sure, they're going to be better. Buffalo's the best team in the AFC to a lot of people, and then even the Jets. I think the Jets are going to give teams fits this year. So I don't know. I actually have them outside the playoffs at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if they stumble in there because it's the Patriots and Belichick, but I don't think they've gotten any better than they did last year.
Well, we had Drew talk down on him. Jared's clearly low on him. So
I'm just low on him.
Can't believe I've got to come in and save the Patriots day. Like, look, the way I look at it is until I see like a dip off like from Belichick, because that's the thing, is this is every year. Like this is, and it's been like this, not necessarily on offense because Brady's always been there, but it's been like this for years on defense where these guys leave, they go sign contracts, and then, like I said, you have players that you never even hear from that they've drafted, 2 or 3 years ago, and they come in and they step in and they're immediate contributors into a winning defense. Until I see that not play out, because even the year that they missed the playoffs a couple years ago, they still had a really good defense. I think it was more of their offense that was holding them back some. Obviously, it's going to do that whenever you lose Tom Brady. But I still think the defense will be fine. I still think they'll end up with a top half of the league defense this year. And I think the offense has improved. You know what I think of Mac Jones? Like, that guy, like I said, he's not going to go up there and drop 40 touchdowns and 5 rushing touchdowns. But what he's going to do is he's going to get the offense in the right look. He's going to make the correct decision. He's going to throw an accurate pass, and he's going to put everybody on that offense where they need to be. Like, he's really smart, really accurate. I think his arm strength is like kind of underrated. Like, everybody talks about him maybe not having a huge arm. He made some throws last year that were absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm a big Mac Jones guy. I think going into his second year, and I think they'll stick kind of similar to the Josh McDaniels type of offense. Like, I don't think it's going to be like, he's not going to come in and start running like RPOs, like spread options and stuff. Like, it's like they have a base of what they want to do there. I think they're going to continue to branch off of that base. And I'm not going to be the guy that calls for New England to take a backward slide until I actually see it with my own eyes. And I think that's kind of like my big thing with it is like, until I see it happen with Belichick where, his team just falls apart, I don't think they're going to fall apart. No matter who they lose, no matter who.
I don't think they're going to fall apart either.
Mm-mm. I just don't know if they'll repeat at 10-7.
Yeah,
I mean,
and like I think Miami overall, like I think on paper Miami has a more talented roster, but New England has the two biggest factors that you need for a successful team, and that's the better quarterback and the better head coach. Just literally having those two things can make up such a big difference for a team. And like, I mean, we saw it last year with a lot of teams where, you know, the Colts, for example, were one of them where, you know, they had one of the most talented rosters in football, like overall. They had a guy rush over 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. They had a top 10 defense. And when you don't have the guy under center, it doesn't matter how talented the rest of your roster is. Like if that guy is not the guy, it's hard to win games. And I think Mac Jones is that guy. And I think Bill Belichick is obviously that guy. So, yeah, I mean, that's just where I stand on it is, do I think they're going to win the division? No, but I don't even know if they make the wild card, honestly. And and that's
AFC's so tough.
what I'm saying. It's like, it's going to be
going
so
back
tough
to
because the AFC West, you're going to have at least probably two teams out of that
Well,
make
probably.
the
I mean, the
wild
AFC
card.
North too. You've got
Cleveland
Cincy and yeah, we'll see what
with,
happens with Sean.
yeah,
But like
Baltimore's gonna be
even
healthy.
taking that, you got Baltimore and Cincinnati to deal with.
Mhm.
You've got the Colts I mean, like the AFC is just tough, man.
it's
To where
loaded.
even if there's like one really good and two solid teams from this division, you still might only get one playoff team out of this division.
Yeah, I mean, you could realistically have like 3 or 4 teams that have winning records that don't make the playoffs, which is
Yeah.
weird to think about.
Yep.
But so yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that they fall like I don't think they fall from where they were last year. If anything, I think the defense might take a step back, the offense takes a step forward. It all kind of evens out, and I can see them winning 10 games again.
It's tough, man, because like I think like skill possession wise, I think they got better bringing in Devontae Parker. Like he's not a huge needle mover, but I do think he's a solid outside presence for them. But then also, I mean, you trade Shaq Mason, then use your first round pick to grab Cole Strange, who's probably going to turn into an All Pro guard.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he will. I mean,
Because but still, I mean that's like Shaq Mason was definitely no slouch in my opinion.
no, he's
So
a
it's
fantastic guard.
it's a bold move to make that transition, and I just think Mac Jones. I don't think so. My opinion on Mac Jones has definitely improved since the day he got drafted. Like Landon and I both had him as the 5th best quarterback of the 5 first-round projected quarterbacks in that draft. But Landon has fallen more in love with him than I have up to this point. I guess I'll just say, like I think he's closer to an average quarterback than he is an above average quarterback. I think he's closer to middle of the pack than cracking that top 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks in the league type thing. Like I think he's closer to average. Um, so I worry if the team falls behind. Like and Mac Jones could end up proving me wrong. It's not that I think he's bad. Like being an average NFL quarterback means that you're a really good quarterback in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I
But
mean, yeah, that's kind of where I mean, in all honesty, that's kind of where I land on him though. But I mean, like you were talking, like there were people coming out of the draft that were saying like, oh, like he's gonna be,
well,
awful. I mean,
and that's why I say
and
that my opinion from the
yeah,
draft has improved.
yeah.
Year from
I don't think he, especially next year. I mean, I'm not gonna say never because you never know, but like, I don't think he ever cracks, the top 7, 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, because that's just that's such a rare. I mean, you've got Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert,
Brady.
Rodgers, Brady, which those guys are probably on their way out. But that's going to be such a that's hard to measure anybody up against. But why I like Mac Jones so much is not necessarily because, like I'm saying, you're not going to see the guy drop 40 touchdowns and rush for 300 yards and
He's
6
not going to kill
touchdowns.
you either, though.
He's not going to do that. But it's not even that he's not going to kill you. Like he makes, like, I hate saying this because it's like such the cliche thing, but like he makes winning football decisions.
He's
and
he's
that
the
is
first one in the room. He's the last one out.
yeah. Like I mean, like the guy. I mean, like really, he's like a coach on the field. Like he really is.
Yeah,
He
you're
makes
rolling now, baby.
yeah, dude. I know. Like he makes winning football decisions. Like the guy.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
Jimmy
I don't disagree with
Garoppolo?
any of
No,
this.
he's better than Jimmy
He's the
Garoppolo.
upgraded version of it. He's the
Yeah,
upgraded version of Jimmy G. He's
yeah.
everything
He's a more
Belichick.
he's Jimmy Garoppolo, but I do think he's a little smarter, and
He's the
I think
son that
he's
Bill
way
Belichick
more
was
accurate.
always like. He's the
Yes.
son that Bill Belichick was
He
always searching
like
for
he
whenever
reminds me.
he was
Look, I
looking at
know
Jimmy
this is
G.
so I know this is so blasphemous, and I even said it last
Tom
year.
Brady.
If dude, I
I know,
swear
I know we're not right.
there
No
were
way.
drives last year that I
Oh my
watched the
God, no
Patriots
way,
where if you put the
no
number
way. We're
12
not
on
doing
him,
this.
it was the same fucking thing. Like
Oh,
I mean, it really was.
we are doing this.
I did it last year. I told you last year, man. Like there were literally now, like it wasn't
I
consistent.
was just hoping that
I'm not
maybe we
saying
would
he's
just leave that
Brady, and
into
I'm not saying
last
he's going to
year.
be better than Brady, like the next Brady. I'm not saying that.
Well, he's
All
not
I'm
good.
saying is
I
the
am
way
saying that.
the way he commanded that offense that Josh McDaniels ran, there were drives last year where you would throw it on, and if you took the number 12 and put it on Mac Jones' jersey, you would watch it and you would see the same decisions. Like you would say, like that's, I mean, it's to a T, exactly
Well,
what
maybe the
Brady would.
same decision. Yeah, it's the same offense that Brady was in, so it's going to be the same reads and the
Yeah,
same
but I'm saying like
priorities
he's
and
getting
shit. So
guys like
he's going to make
he's
some of the
making
same
checks at the
choices.
line. He's making checks at the line, getting guys into the right protections, getting guys into the right looks, wide receivers. He's diagnosing things at the line of scrimmage as a rookie, and then making an accurate throw and putting guys in position to succeed. That's like he plays like a dude that's played for 10 years and he was a rookie. And I think that's why
He's a
I'm
very
so
smart
impressed with him.
quarterback. Yeah,
Like that's why I was so impressed with him. Is like, and
that's
there's
fair.
no, yeah.
Do you
So I
think
mean,
he's the? Do you think he's a clear-cut number 2 quarterback in that division?
yes, easily.
Oh God, I
Yeah,
hope so.
easily. Like if you were to swap him and Tua, Miami makes the playoffs next year. Like no question in my mind, Miami makes the playoffs next year.
Miami can make playoffs with Tua this year coming up. They could.
I mean, yeah, they could.
I don't think it's that like 100% clear. Like I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's better than Tua. He's way better.
I agree that he's better. I think the gap between elite quarterbacks, like the top quarterbacks we're talking about, Mac Jones, is bigger than the gap between Mac Jones and Tua. I think they live in a closer world than Mac Jones and the
It's only year 2.
live personally.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to watch the Patriots this year. And like I said, I don't know.
I'm glad you are.
I don't know how they're gonna do. But and it's strictly just because I like watching that type of football. Like it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like just smart, move the chains, make the right read, get the ball out quick. Like I love it. Like I could literally watch that type of shit all day. So like everybody else is looking for the cool, like, oh, he scrambled, past 6 guys and threw a 70-yard bomb off his back foot. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty fun to watch. Yeah,
that's a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
It's pretty enjoyable.
You give me the boring, quintessential, correct. Like I want to watch a drive where the quarterback gets the guys in the right protection, the right looks, makes an accurate, fast read, knows pre-snap and post-snap what he's doing, what you're doing. Like that's what I want to watch.
You want to know the cool thing?
That's
though?
the ultimate quarterback. Like,
You want to know the cool thing though? Guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and guys like that, they do all that cool shit and they do all the other shit you're talking about too. So that's like
to an extent, not really.
You can have both.
No, I mean, like, look,
So
like
you're
if there's
going to tell me Mac Jones is better at anything
you can.
at quarterback than Mac Jones, Josh Allen.
I do think I can tell you right now. I do think Mac Jones is better pre and post snap, like reading a defense, than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are. I do. I think he is better. Like mentally, I think he is better.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean I think he's a better quarterback because he
Yeah,
doesn't have
no.
the tools that those guys do. Like those
Right.
are just God-given tools. I mean, you can't teach that stuff. He's never going to be able to do that stuff. But
I think this is what makes us all so different. Like Landon's like drooling over the Patriots. I'm just thinking like, hell, I will never play any of these people in fantasy football because like there's this Miami's the
it's not a
same way.
fantasy thing. It's much more of a real life. Like
I know, like you're the X's and O guy, and like fantasy wise, I'm like, God, the Jets are. There's a lot of players that might draft from the Jets. There ain't nobody I'm touching on the Patriots or the Dolphins.
I could give I could give two shits less. Like if the dude threw 180 yards and one touchdown and like no picks, like no fumbles. If you played a clean game and say like you got the running back involved, like that was weirdly like one of my favorite things about Peyton Manning was I remember watching a game back when I was younger, or not younger but like a teenager, back when they had Edgerrin James, and one of the best games Manning played that year was a game that he had one touchdown and like 220 yards, but Edgerrin James had damn near like 200 something yards rushing. And it was all because like the defense was giving Manning a certain look, and he could have sat out there and he could have thrown, and he could have thrown 4 bombs and all kinds of stuff like that, but he got them into the correct play every single time. And his stats didn't look like normal Manning stats, but he played such a smart, clean game. And like, it's the Manning Colts football fan in me that likes that stuff. Like I love the mental chess match. And like, that's what it is with Mac Jones, is more often than not, he wins that chess match. And that's what, I like it. I like it. I like the mental part of it. You ain't got to throw 4 touchdowns to impress me if you make the right reads. Like Carson Wentz, 27-7 last year. 60-yard bombs. He could escape the pocket. He was making all his moves. I couldn't fucking watch him, dude. I couldn't watch it because it was just so mentally like I lost brain cells trying to watch that shit. All right, so anyway, we got off the rails there.
I'd rather watch. I talked all that shit. I'd rather watch Mac Jones than Carson Wentz too. I mean, that's a whole different debate. Shit.
No, but I'm saying like that's like the quintessential like physically talented, big arm, mobile, just God-given ability, to play the quarterback position. That he's going to be able to do things that maybe 5 or 6 quarterbacks can do, but it's like there's no mental like if you dropped Mac Jones' brain in Carson Wentz's body, you would probably have one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL today. So,
time shall tell.
Yeah, hey, we'll see. Regardless, it's all hypotheticals. I don't know. Put me in, coach. Let's go, Belichick. I'll.
It's what makes these discussions fun.
Yeah, man, it's
we've had a lot of
and drop it like if you are listening to this and like go to if you are watching on YouTube, drop in the YouTube comments. I'm curious to see like how do you view Mac Jones as a quarterback, whether you view him like I'm curious because I want to see other people's opinions, whether if they think like me, like where they think it's just much more of like a mental thing, or you think it's just like dink and dunk, king or whatever social media does, like not able to do any of this stuff, even though he did have a higher average depth of target than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen last year, by the way. I'm curious to see how the average football fan views a guy like Mac Jones when they're watching him on Sundays, because I view it through the lens of a quarterback, or through the lens of a coach, where like I'm looking at the X's and O's. I'm diagnosing coverages. I know what you're doing. And then when I see Mac Jones make a correct read, it's like, that's the shit I like. Like, yes, let's do this. Whereas like you might watch it and see a 6-yard pass and you're just like, that's nothing. I'm curious to see how the average fan views Mac Jones. So drop it in the comments. Let us know like if you think he's a good quarterback, a bad quarterback, an elite quarterback. I want to hear all kinds of
Not.
opinions on it. Yeah. We'll see. Drew's like, if you drop an elite quarterback comment in the thing, like you're getting shredded by the YouTube.
Yeah, I'm definitely jumping in that one.
Yeah.
No, this has been fun though because like up to this point, the divisional previews we've done, it's just been kind of like a
Cookie cutter
consensus
divisional preview.
thing, like we even as crazy as the AFC West was, we all four had the division playing out the exact same way,
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a lot of like consensus of this is how we all feel about all these teams. It's all the same, and it's not because we like get together before the show and we're like, all right, guys,
No, a lot of this stuff we talk
we're
about on
gonna
the show
agree. We're gonna
for the
agree
first
on
time.
this stuff. Like, yeah, we don't get together before we start recording. Like, all right, we're gonna agree on this, and this, and this. Like, it's just like
Skip and
literally,
Shannon,
if we start talking too much before we hit record, we're like, hey, shut up. Like, this is stuff we could be talking about on the show. Let's stop talking about it and let's hit record. Like, so it's just by coincidence that up to this point we've had the divisions playing out the same way and things like that. So it's fun to have a little differences of opinion and stuff whenever it does happen. I mean, we do think quite a bit alike. It's just in the grand scheme of things, but it's fun whenever we get to have these little conversations.
Yeah, and you get like an insight into like the way my brain works when I watch football, which is like,
I have one more comparison for you.
It's a lot going on there.
I have one more comparison for Mac Jones.
Okay.
And I think Landon, I think this is 100% my Mac Jones evaluation. In a very short window. He is not quite there yet, but he reminds me of Troy Aikman. I
think Aikman had a bigger arm.
The offense.
I think Aikman had a bigger arm, but I don't think Aikman was quite as bright as Mac Jones. I'm not saying that because of the concussions. I just think like Aikman could get you into some trouble sometimes as well. Where I think more often than not, I don't think Mac Jones is going to get you into a ton. Which last year was his rookie year, so I mean, like he did throw some picks because look, the speed of the game it's difficult for rookie quarterback. Every rookie quarterback throws picks. I think those are going to drop off pretty decently this year. Because even whenever he was making, a few of the picks, like for sure were rough, but there were a few picks that I did watch where it was like he was making the right move, like he was making the right read. He just didn't make it fast enough. Like the speed kind of got to him and he was just a little late with the ball, but it wasn't a bad decision. He just has to get there a little bit earlier. And that just comes with time. It comes with time in the league.
I think he'll be an accurate quarterback. I do think he's a smart quarterback. Like, I mean, like the Scott Fishbowl league I'm in, it rewards accuracy. It's like
you should be excited. I'm talking to Mac Jones.
No, like it's not that I'm rooting against the guy or anything. And I thought he was a good value there in terms of like I thought he was a really safe option. That's how I feel about Mac Jones. I think he's a very safe option. Yeah. Once you get into
you know what wins in the NFL? Safe.
Nah, not anymore. Not anymore. Ain't nothing safe about going and getting Tom Brady whenever he's played in the same system for forever and just throwing him in.
You know who's the ultimate safe quarterback?
Ain't nothing safe about going and trading for Matthew Stafford whenever he ain't won shit. He's been in the league for over a decade, ain't won nothing. Ain't nothing safe about going and getting Matthew Stafford.
I'm not saying that's 1 year. I'm saying over the history of the league. You know what wins? On a consistent basis?
In the league now, I don't feel like safe does. I feel like you need to have Josh Allen. You need to have Patrick Mahomes.
Well, now we're only a couple years away from Brady's son in both of them. So
you need to have but Brady he's one of them guys. He's him. Mac Jones isn't him.
Yeah.
But, that's how I'm saying that I feel about him. I don't like even as we progress. I don't think he's going to be him. Like
I don't think anybody's ever going to be Brady. Like I don't think that's.
I'm not saying him as Brady. I'm just saying.
But I think his play style can be very similar.
I don't think he can get to that level. I don't think he can get to the Brady level, the Mahomes level. Like you have to have that difference maker at quarterback now. That guy that if you get down, that guy that can make those big plays for you. Like that's to me, whenever I watch the league now, that's how I see it. It's not the same league as it's been the entire time Brady was in the Patriots offense and things like that. Like things are just different now, and I just don't think Mac Jones can get you to the playoffs, but I don't think you win a Super Bowl with him.
You know who else realized the league is different? Tom Brady. That's why he left New England. I think there was another reason outside of the Belichick stuff. I think Brady smartened up. Like, I mean,
Yeah, the fact that he went to a stacked off. Yeah, I mean, that's smart.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Like, he knew that, I mean, Tampa Bay went from like Jameis Winston won, 6 games the year before that? And then they got Tom Brady won Super Bowl. Like, the Rams they were already a Super Bowl team before Stafford got there, but Stafford put him over the hump.
I just don't feel like Mac is that over the hump guy. I really don't, man. And I feel like at quarterback, you have to have that now.
I think he can be. I do. I think he can be. I think you can win. I think you can win a lot of football games if Mac Jones is your quarterback.
I agree. I do too. I just don't think you can win the game. I think you can win a lot of games.
You got to win. I mean, there's a lot that goes into just like a Super Bowl thing, man. Like,
well, I know it's not all up to the quarterback. I'm just saying, like traditionally speaking, it's not like you. I
mean, let's not act like Matt Stafford didn't throw a dart into Jaquiski Tartt's midsection, like just dropped it, or else we're not having this conversation. I mean, there's a lot of luck, I mean, it's a whole thing that goes into the Super Bowl.
It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of.
That's one.
Which is why, like, nobody's ever going to be Brady.
But that's fine. You know,
it's a lot of luck and a lot of circumstances too. I mean, you look back at last year, and I mean, Mac Jones and the Patriots, they beat the Buffalo Bills in one of the windiest games I've ever watched in my entire life.
And they had to play in the regular weather in the playoffs, and
they got beat by 40 points. Like, it was just, you know what I mean? Like, that's the NFL, and circumstances definitely play into it. And I think if there is a path for New England to make a run or even
it's
make
similar to what they had with Brady, and that's a strong offensive line, a strong defense.
They don't have that strong of an offensive line, though.
Not like it was Brady era.
No, they don't have a Brady offensive line. They lost their best guard. Maybe the guard they drafted works out. They've got question marks at the tackle position.
Yeah, but their ability to develop players has like almost been second to none in 20 years. I mean, it's like that's why I have such a hard time.
I'm just saying the offensive line back in the day, whenever you're talking about, though, was a sure thing. Like the player, even the players you looked at on the roster back then, they were a sure thing.
But they all had to start out as rookies and unknown entities. I mean, nobody. I
don't think we've ever projected this much on their offensive line. I really don't.
I still think they have solid pieces there. Like, I don't think it's going to be some like drop off that what you're thinking. Like, people have been saying the drop offs happening for years, and until it happens, I'm not ready to be the one that says it.
I mean, Isaiah Wynn's got plenty of injury concerns. Like, Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
All right. Well, that's enough on the Patriots. I'm glad we had this discussion. Let's now move on to the cream of the crop of the division, possibly the cream of the crop of the NFL coming into this year, and that is the Buffalo Bills, who, if you didn't know, my undying love for Josh Allen. He is my preseason MVP pick. I'm pretty excited about this season for the Bills, and they made some pretty decent moves as well. Like I said, going up, getting Jamison Crowder, getting OJ Howard there in that tight end room, going and grabbing Roger Saffold from Tennessee, and then the big one, of course, is the Von Miller signing from the Rams. They did lose Cole Beasley, not to COVID, like you may think. He's still around. And then they did lose Emmanuel Sanders and Jerry Hughes, who were veterans, kind of got up there in age. And, it was just kind of their time to walk out the door. So Jerry Hughes, by the way, another one of the awful Ryan Grigson moves. I believe he was traded for because he was drafted as a Colt, and while he didn't play, a ton, they played it. Who they trade him straight up for? It was one of the first moves that Ryan Grigson made as the general manager. They traded him for Kelvin Shepherd. That's what I thought. Who, you know who Kelvin Shepherd is?
John and me?
Either one of you guys. You know who Kelvin Shepherd is?
No.
Exactly. You don't. So another fantastic Colts move by Ryan Grigson. Continuing to build that team. Yep, continuing to build that team around Andrew Luck. Thank you so much. So Buffalo Bills. What's there to say that hasn't already been said about this team coming into this year? Obviously we saw the way it ended last year with the coin toss. I think if the coin toss doesn't exist, these teams are probably still going back and forth today. It's the end of July. They're in their 82nd overtime. But unfortunately, that's the way it ended, which I'm glad now it is no longer like that, thanks to the rule change. Also, thank you to the Indianapolis Colts for that rule change in the playoffs. The coin toss now is irrelevant. Both teams will get a shot at scoring. What's there to say that hasn't been said? Like, what is some of the things you're looking forward to watching this Bills team this year?
I truly feel like they got better. This team was already great, but I truly feel like they got better. Like at the wide receiver position, you take Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley were the losses, right? Which equals an increased role for Gabriel Davis, and then bringing in Jamison Crowder. I think Gabriel Davis is an ascending player. I think that he will be better this year, and I think Jamison Crowder is a better option than Cole Beasley.
Yeah,
Like,
let's
I
not
think
forget
Jamison
about Khalil
Crowder.
Shakir as well.
Yeah, well, I think we will. Honestly, I think he's probably the fifth best receiver on this team, like behind Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Jamison Crowder.
I don't know. First day of camp news. Big news. First day of camp.
I'll believe it when I see it. Until then, he's like wide receiver 5. But that's not a knock on the Bills. Like for him to be the fifth best receiver on the team, that tells you how talented the room is. I just feel like Jamison Crowder is really underrated. And I think that, it might feel like a wash for a lot of people to go from Cole Beasley to Jamison Crowder, but I think that's an upgrade. I really do. And then getting enough cannot be said about Von Miller being there on the defensive side of the ball. What he brings just from a championship mentality, and then in terms of talent, like he showed that he definitely still has it. Like, and that was, we talk about the crazy game between the Chiefs and the Bills, like, and everybody complains about the coin toss and things like that. But at the end of the day, you don't give up 40 plus. You don't lose that game. And like, even though the defense season long, the Bills defense was not bad, like they were pretty good, but whenever it mattered, they weren't good enough. So I think that's, even though the life of the contract for Von Miller might not look great, the impact that he's going to make immediately to that defense cannot be talked about enough. And then, the cornerback alongside Tre'Davious White, I think they also improved in the draft as well. I was a big Kyer Elam fan and during the draft season, and seeing them grab him, I think that's a really good fit. I think he makes the secondary better as well. So it's literally the only question mark I have about this entire team is the running back room and what happens with that, because I do feel like that's something they've lacked. They've kind of just leaned on Josh Allen. They need to improve the running game. With all the improvements they made, they brought in James Cook as well to add to the running back room. But with the improvements they made elsewhere, that's the only position I'm left looking at with this team is the running back position. Everywhere else is just set in stone. This roster is incredible to me.
Yeah, I second everything. I think they got better. One thing that they did do towards the tail end of the season was they started running the football a little bit more with Devin Singletary, who definitely looked better to me than Zach Moss did at any point of last year. And a lot of people felt like Zach Moss was going to easily be the number one RB on that team. And I think Singletary, he definitely shined a little bit. James Cook just adds another pass catcher to an already loaded offense. It's right up there. We kind of teased already our MVP picks and everything, but Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, that's going to be a race. It's going to be a lot of fun watching. It's going to remind you a lot of like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning years, Tom Brady mixed in there, like some of those different quarterbacks. There's just so many similarities on that. To me, the one thing, if Buffalo can get home field advantage, I feel like that's going to be very important for them because I think that's the other thing too last year, that if that game would have been played in Buffalo, I think the outcome could have been different as well. I think you get Bills Mafia involved, like that's going to make a world of difference. And quite frankly, I mean, if the season was to start tomorrow, I think they would easily be the favorite to come out of the AFC and probably be the 1 seed and have home field throughout the entire playoffs. Man, yeah, they're a stacked team, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, this feels like a team that is, they've kind of been on the verge the last couple seasons of like making that like final push, and this feels like the year that they finally make that proverbial leap into that elite stratosphere of teams that like they're just now obviously luckily for them they don't have to play Jonathan Taylor every single week because we saw what that guy did to him, but I just had to get that plug in.
Rolls what that guy did.
Woo! But yeah, man, that's their roster is great. Their wide receivers are great. I think their line is going to have another year of improvement. It's going to be a really good offensive line, especially their tackles. I do like their tackles, their bookends. I'm curious to see if the news about wanting to stop Josh Allen from running so much is actually a thing. It'll be curious to see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, there's not really many questions about this team. Like, it's just now go out and prove it. We've heard the offseason hype. We've heard, the MVP picks, the Super Bowl picks. Now it's up to them to, go out and, perform. So there's not really too much to say.
They lost some games last year. I know 2 of their losses off the top of my head. They got beat.
That Jags game.
Yeah, they got beat by Pittsburgh in week 1 with Ben Roethlisberger like a shell of himself the entire season.
That Jacksonville game to me will forever that made no sense. It was so crazy.
That's the epitome of the NFL, right?
Literally, man. Like no better game to be able to describe how crazy the NFL can be week to week.
And the thing about those 2 losses, they were both road games, and that goes back to why I feel like home field is so important for that team.
Yeah.
Like it's a completely different atmosphere at that stadium and what is a lot of different places. And I don't know. That's the one thing that worries me. Like,
yeah. I mean, you think about other teams in the AFC that could possibly have home field, like Kansas City. That's another home field. That's a tough spot as far as that goes. And they're not the only AFC West team, with a tough home field environment either. And
then too, I think either of the, we kind of saw
AFC
last
North
year,
teams like,
well, even the AFC South. They play such. The AFC West teams are going to beat themselves up. The AFC North teams are going to beat themselves up.
Yeah, if the AFC had to come through Buffalo, that would be huge.
Tough.
It's going to be really tough.
That would be huge. Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah. All right. Well, so look, the way they get home field advantage obviously starts out with winning the division. That's key one. So let's get into our divisional picks. Who we think is going to win the division, and give us your rankings. From first to worst. How do you think this division plays out? I'm going to kick it down to Jared, and go ahead and give us your picks for the AFC East in 2022.
So I'll go from worst to first. I've got the Jets still in the 4 seed, basically. I do feel like they improved. I think it's a 6-win team, which is 2 more games than they won last year. Yeah, I do. I think they made some really good offseason acquisitions, and I think they're going to be fun to watch. But 3, this one was tough, man. And it kind of goes – this one's really tough. I actually, believe it or not, I have Miami as a 3 seed. I do, and it goes back to towards the end of the year, there's going to be games. It's going to get cold. They're going to play on the road, and that's when it's in teams like Buffalo and New England's favor, where teams like Miami they get close and they just can't quite finish. And I think that's what's going to happen again. So obviously, it's the same as last year. I've got New England as a 2 seed, missing the playoffs though, which is key. I do not have them in the playoffs, but I do have them as a 2 seed, and Buffalo is the clear-cut winner of the AFC East.
All right, Big Drew.
Yeah,
Go ahead and redeem it.
I think Buffalo's definitely the winner of this division and the best team. Clearly, I do have Miami coming in at number 2, New England coming in 3rd, and then the Jets. Very similar to Jared. Like they're still going to be the worst team in this division for me, but I do think that they do improve on their win total. And I think they're a better team this year. Even if Zach Wilson isn't the guy, I think they've made enough improvements to the roster as a whole to win a couple more games this year. So, but yeah, I got Bills, Dolphins, Pats, Jets.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna stick with Big Jared here.
Yeah,
obviously the Bills are gonna win the division. To me, that is obvious, but as we know in the NFL, sometimes things don't work out. Josh Allen goes down. Who knows what happens? Hopefully that doesn't happen. So I've got the Bills winning the division, and then of course New England coming in second place. Still the better quarterback, still the better coach. That matters. I don't think that it's such a thing that they missed the playoffs. I think possibly if the AFC West teams beat themselves up enough, I think New England, just by virtue of playing the Jets and playing Miami, and I think they split with Miami. But,
don't forget the North too.
Yeah. Well,
there's still 2 really good teams in the North.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll have to see what happens there in the North as well. But yeah, it's going to be tough, but I'm just not ready to bet against them. I'm just not ready to throw that down yet, because I did it once and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So not going to do that again. Then Miami finishing 3rd. Even though I do like the Dolphins, I think they're on the right track. I'm not sold that 2 is the guy. I've never been sold 2 is the guy, even coming out of Alabama. There's something missing there. And then I have the Jets bringing up the rear, and this is going to be the true test. I think for both Miami and the Jets is like, this is the year you find out if you have a quarterback, for both of those teams. Whereas I think for obviously with Buffalo and New England, I think that you have a quarterback. So that's kind of where I have it. It's like, the haves and the have-nots. And I think that's how it's going to play out. So pretty excited about this division. It is going to be a really fun division to see. There is a lot of intrigue there in that division and what can happen. And, you have some teams that are going to be, grinded out defense, run the ball. Then you're going to have teams that are going to be shootout heavy that, you don't want to get in a shootout with, but it's just, man, it's like a pick your flavored kind of division. It's like, what team do you like the most? This division has it. If you like shitty teams, you got the Jets. If you like fast, explosive teams, you've got the Dolphins. If you like the quintessential classic, smash mouth, smart decision making football team, you got the Patriots. And then if you just want a juggernaut on both sides of the ball, you got the Bills. So it's kind of like what's your flavor? It's gonna be a fun division. That being said, that does bring our divisional preview to an end. We went a little long in this one. Thanks, Mac Jones. Had to defend your honor. I know Ray will be really excited. I don't think he's ever heard me come to the Patriots' defense. It's not something I do very often, if ever. So shout out to my boy Ray. That one's for you. And we're going to be checking out the NFC East here in a few days as well. That should be up later this week. That's another really intriguing division. There's a lot going on in that division. For better or for worse, there's a lot going on there. So get ready for that to drop. Like I said, if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so you can be notified whenever the AFC or the NFC East episode does drop later this week. If you are listening, we want to thank you as well for sticking it out through a little bit of a longer episode. But, it's been really fun talking with you guys. And if you're looking for some Twitter stuff or you're looking for ways to reach out, talk to us, we do have a Discord that you can go ahead and follow, and that is on our Twitter as well. That is at 3 Man Rush Podcast, where you can find all 3 of our Twitter handles there as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, our Twitter handles are here in the video. You can follow all three of us. We all kind of specialize in our own thing. Drew's much more, fantasy related. He has some fun Cardinal stuff. If you like Cardinals baseball, you'll love Drew's account. Jared is our DFS guy. If you like making money, you like playing, daily sports, Jared's on there. And if you like talking shit about the Tennessee Titans, come on and follow me. I'll wrap my arm around you and we can go do it together. But yeah, it's just more general like football, discussions, and I'm always willing to hop on there. Actually, had a conversation with Yannick Ngakoue tonight on Twitter, so that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Go follow us at 3 Man Rush Podcast and go subscribe on the YouTube 3 Man Rush Podcast. If you're listening to audio format, we're also 3 Man Rush Podcast on that. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you in a few days.